I'm Matt Marvin. Today I want to go over with you the general layout of the iDs software. How do you find different features? How do you add different images? How do you do a comparison in the software? Just kind of where some of the features are. We'll do additional tutorials that go into some of the more details of each of the applications, but in general, we'll just want to show you where are you going to find things, how are you going to get around the software. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go up to the upper left-hand corner here, and we're going to click on File. And we have a few options that we've already talked about in other tutorials. Importing images, opening your film strip, different ways to import an image from a camera or from a scanner. You have a print option here as well. Under Edit, you have the ever important, at least for me, Undo button. We can also rotate an image 90 degrees clockwise, 90 degrees counterclockwise. We can do a vertical or horizontal flip. You do that if you have a gel lift or you need to adjust the orientation of the print by mirror imaging it. You can invert an image if you have light ridges on a dark background and you want to change that. You can change that to dark ridges on a light background. You can convert it to grayscale, convert it to RGB, or a super awesome tool I'm very excited about with this software, and that's our color subtraction tool. This is one I want to spend a little bit of time with this tutorial, and that is the view option. First thing that we can view is the film strip, and the film strip is going to be down here at the bottom of the screen. If we go down to the bottom, this whole area down here is your film strip. And when you load images into the software, this is where they're going to go. This is kind of a preview of what images are in the software and for you to be able to work with. You can close this down so that you have more area to view your image in the screen. So to show you what I'm talking about, let's go ahead and click on the image 1, and let's go ahead and click on the latent print image here that we want to load into the software. And you're going to see once that loads in, if I need a little bit more room on my screen to be able to view what I'm doing, I can click here on film strip, and it's going to collapse that film strip down, and that's going to give me more space for my images. I can click on it again and it'll bring it back. You can do that exact same thing up at the top menu here under View. You can click or unclick your film strip. There's also a keyboard shortcut for this, and that's Control F. Now this whole area off on the left-hand side here, we call this the tool palette. And the exact same options are available for the tool palette. You can click here to turn it on and off. There's a keyboard shortcut for it, Control T to turn that back in. And then you can also just click over here on the blue arrow to collapse it or bring it back. Now, when I'm working with my images, a lot of times if I need more room on my screen, maybe I've got 3 images up, a latent print, and then I want to compare the rolled impression on a known card and also the plain impression on the same card to the one latent print, then I need a lot more room because I've got 3 images that I'm trying to work with at the same time. So we built in a shortcut for that, and that's the Tab key. So if I hit the Tab key, what you're going to see is that tool palette and the film strip both are going to collapse at the same time, and then hitting that Tab button again will bring them back up. Another thing that we can do, and certainly if we're doing a comparison, is we can view another image. So I'm going to click on image 2, and you can see over here it's going to bring a whole new image pane up. Now, one great thing about our software is that you can load the same image into multiple image panes for comparison. So for most software programs, if you want to have multiple copies of the same image, you're going to have to save it as different file names, or you're going to have to duplicate the image multiple times in the software. But in ours, all you have to do is click on the image again. So let me show you how to do that. So if we look over here at the latent print, I'm going to click on image 2. And you can see I've already got this latent image loaded into image pane 1. Well, I'm just going to click on it again, and I can load it into image pane 2. In fact, if I go back up here to View, up at the top, I can click on image 3, and that's going to bring up another pane. And in fact, if I wanted to load that same image into image 3, I can. I'm going to click over here into the image 3 pane. You don't have to click in the header. You can click down here and anywhere in the box. And I'm going to click on the image that I want to load into that image pane. So I'm going to load that latent print again. So let's kind of go through an example that I run into sometimes in my casework that I mentioned before. Sometimes I want to compare both the plain rolled impression as well as the rolled known impression at the same time to the same latent print. Maybe different parts of the known print, the rolled and the plain, show different information that I need in my comparison. So for this scenario, I like to put my latent print in the middle, And then I'm going to load my known print into image pane 1. And then when this is done loading, I'm also going to load it into image pane 3. Now these known prints are a pretty good sized file. This is an entire known print card at 1,000 pixels per inch. So it's a fairly large file, so it's going to take just a second to load. And we're going to go click on image 3, and then we're going to click on the known print again to load it into that view. And again, once that finishes loading, then I'm going to zoom in on the prints that I want to take a look at. So for our purposes, I want to take a look, maybe let's take a look at this right middle. Well, there's a few ways to zoom in on the software to be able to see it. First of all, once you select an image pane, just click in the image pane. Here I clicked in image pane 1. You can use your mouse wheel. Pushing forward on your mouse wheel zooms the image out, and pulling back on your mouse wheel zooms you in. If you go up here under image processing, you also have a few zoom options under here. So you can zoom in, or you can zoom out by clicking on the magnifying glasses. Now, one of my absolute favorites is when I'm trying to navigate my way around a card, a lot of times I want to zoom into a very specific area and then back out and then zoom into a next very specific area. So what we built in the software here is a select zoom capability. So I clicked on select zoom up here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box around this right middle rolled impression here, and it's going to zoom in on that right middle. Now the other thing that I wanted to take a look at is I wanted to take a look at that right middle plane impression. Let's see if that plane impression has any details in it that maybe my rolled impression doesn't. And I'm going to draw a box around that, and it's going to zoom in on the plane impression. In this case, really not so much, really doesn't have any information available that wasn't present in the rolled impression. But here's my latent print, and I could zoom in on that as well. Maybe I want to zoom in a little bit more for a comparison. So I'm going to select that image pane. I'm going to click on select zoom. I'm going to draw that box, and it's going to zoom in for me. And if I need to make some minor adjustments on that zoom, I can of course use my mouse wheel or my plus and minus buttons. Let's go back up to this header up here, and we've got one more option under the under view, and that's the navigators. Now the navigators are these boxes that are in the corners of each one of these windows, and they're super useful when you're trying to move your way around a large image. Maybe you're trying to scan through an entire tin print card, or maybe you're trying to look at scanning across fingers on a palm print card, or navigating around trying to find a very small section of ridge detail inside of an entire palm, and you just need a fast, easy way to move around, and the navigators are perfect for that. So what I like to do is, let's take a look at image pane 1 here. I've got my navigator on, I've got a tin print card, and I want to scan through the fingers real quick here, so I can just click on that navigator box. You can see the area that's highlighted, and I can move across the plane impressions, the rolled impressions very quickly to see if there's any information there that looks like it might correspond with my latent print. So the navigators are a great, easy way to move around. Now, one of the downsides, though, is that a lot of times they'll cover up some detail on your image. So if I want that area uncovered, if those navigators are in the way, I can just go over to View, and I can either click on the navigators here, or again, there was a keyboard shortcut for that as well. It's Control-N, and I can turn those navigators back on. So great way to be able to move around your images. Also up in the header, we have a few tools. We have a histogram, we have our image calibration options, a way of preparing images for APHIS, or if you have a lot of images that are ready to go for APHIS, prepping those for APHIS very quickly. If you have one file type and you need to convert it to another, maybe for example, you have some crime scene images that you need to take a look at. They were all saved as a JPEG image when they came into your laboratory, and you need to convert them all to a TIFF. We have a batch file converter that's going to let you convert all those files very quickly into a TIFF format so you can stop any loss from compression. We've also got a multiple crop tool, which is another just fantastic tool I really like, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And we have our preferences. We have a whole tutorial for you on what your preferences are. If you need any information about the software itself or licensing information, you're going to get that here through About. You've got a direct link to the tutorials here. And then if you have the automatic updates turned off on your preferences, make sure you come to the help menu and click on check for updates pretty often. And that way, if we push out any updates, you'll get those updates to the software as well. Moving across the top here, we've got that select zoom option that I already showed you, and it works for any image that you have selected. We've got the multiple crop tool. Again, we'll be building a tutorial just on that. We have a calibrate your selected image and preparing an image for APHIS, and then the Matt Marvin ever important undo button. We've got that there as well. Moving down the left-hand side of the panel, we've got some image processing options. Under annotations, that's where you're going to access things like dropping dots, or if you want to trace some ridges, or if you want to add some text or some arrows, that's where you're going to do that. You've got your image information. This is the metadata, so when a photograph is taken, it's going to automatically record information like aperture and shutter speed, what camera you used, and that gets recorded into the metadata, and you can access that and view that here. Now, this is something that you may not use very often in your casework, and if that's the case, go to Tools, click on your Preferences, and you'll be able to turn that off in your preferences. We've also got a section here for your recovery snapshots, and recovery snapshots are just kind of a copy of your image saved at a point in time. And then we've also got the history information. You can see so far all we've done with this image that would need a history added to it is very simple, very easy to read history that is going to record the date, the time, and here we can see that we just added the initial history to this image. We'll do a whole tutorial on adding analysis sets, but if you want to play around before you click on that tutorial, then click Add New, and it'll step you through pretty quickly and easily on how to add an analysis of a latent print, or if you want to do an analysis on a known print too. Down here we've got layers, and we have a whole bunch of different options for your layers, but if these are in the way, again, if they're taking up too much of your screen space, you can just unclick this show button, or you can re-click it if you want it back. So those are just some quick, easy ways to navigate around the software, an overview of where your different functions are going to be located. If you have any questions, please give us a phone call anytime at 1-800-TEAM-RSA, or you can reach us on our website at www.ronsmithandassociates.com. We hope you're enjoying the software. We hope you're enjoying whether it's a trial version or a full version. We hope you're just really finding it useful. If you have any feedback, please give us a call. We'd love to hear that too. Have a great day, take care, and God bless.